Hello bag builders, it's Diane from Spencer Ogg Sewing Patterns. Thanks for joining me. Just on briefly today because I've had quite a few questions about stitching curves and how to get a nice even curved line. So I thought I'd just bob on and give you a few helpful tips. So in a moment I will show you a particular machine foot that will really help you stay close to the edge and keep it smooth. But in the meantime, just to practice a few curves before you start, I have just designed a couple of pages of curves for you to have a go at, because that'll be some really good practice for you. Just go to the text below the video and you'll see how to download them, completely free. So print them off a few times and have a bit of fun toddling around with the different shapes. You'll find it easier if you go slower. Obviously there's some larger curves in there, some smaller curves in there, there's a few different ones. As I say, just have a bit of fun with it. So just take old thread out of your machine, use an old needle because it does tend to blunt your needle. Just use an old one, throw it away afterwards, but it really is good practice. So let's have a practice. I'm going to start with one of the larger curves because of course a larger curve is easier than a sharp curve. So use a shorter stitch length. That means you have more movement over a shorter distance and more manoeuvrability. You'll find it easier to go slower, and if you can, switch the speed of your machine down. Try a large curve first because a large curve obviously is easier than a sharp curve. And let's make a start. Now remember, you can lift your presser foot at any time and give it a little move. If it's a large curve, you can often just manoeuvre it around as you go, but when you come to a sharper curve, you will have to keep lifting your presser foot to allow you to just move the fabric a tiny bit at a time. You don't want to make any sharp moves because that you'd end up with a right angle in your sewing. You literally want to do it a tiny fraction at a time. One stitch, tiny fraction. One stitch, tiny fraction. So I'm coming to a slightly sharper curve here. Now watch where your needle's actually going in. You're not lining up that curve with the edge of your presser foot, you're lining it up with the needle. So as you go around the curve, match the needle to the curve itself, not the presser foot. That's what you want to be looking at. With a really sharp curve, you might only be doing one stitch and lifting your presser foot each time. So here we go, here's a really sharp one. Actually, another tip is, while you're doing this, use a good thick needle. I'm actually using a fine point Microtex needle here, and you can see it's bend. It will bend a little bit because it's so fine. So have a practice. Try a few different shapes and sizes of curves. The more you do, the better you're going to get at it. And if you come to the point you need to do a right angle, all you need to do is leave your needle in the fabric, raise your presser foot and literally swivel the fabric by 90 degrees, presser foot back down and carry on. There we go. So practice to your heart's content. It should give you a good grounding, ready to sew your next real curve. So then we'll just move on to fabric itself. So moving on to fabric and a curved edge itself. Now you've had a bit more practice, it should be much easier. This is just something I was playing with earlier. So for this, I would use my blind hemming foot. Obviously, you've been practicing freehand as such, but if you don't want to go freehand, you can use the aid of a blind hemming foot. So basically what it is a foot, this is quite a wide one, it's a foot that has a bar in the middle. It's for hemming trousers, but I don't tend to hem a lot of trousers, but I do use the foot a lot for edge stitching. So it has a little bar right in the centre. So if you add that to your machine and then move your needle to the left, and it'll stitch obviously just on the left hand side of that bar, and you butt the bar up against the curved edge of the fabric, and it'll help you get around that corner nice and smoothly and evenly. So let me put it in and show you. Still haven't got any fabric on there, but that's okay. So press a foot down, butt the fabric up against that bar in the centre of your foot, and then move your needle to the left. The further you move it to the left, the further that stitch line is going to be from the edge. So there we go, I've moved mine too. It's about 1/2 centimetre from the edge. So let's start stitching. I haven't got any thread in there, but that's fine. So you come into your curve. This is a really tight curve, as you can see, so I'm going to have to do a lot of up and down action with the presser foot, which is fine. Just remember, as you're going around the curve, you want to be lining the edge of the curve up with the needle, not with this far end of the presser foot. You're right in the middle there, and that's what you're aiming to get the curve in line with. So a couple of stitches, a little bit of a shuffle. I'm moving it in relation to the edge and the needle, not the end of the presser foot. And carry on. I should have put some thread in there actually. You should be able to see the stitch marks. As you can see, it's just a good tip to get it close to the edge and following on smoothly. So lots of presser foot action, up and down, raising it, lowering it, and stay in line with the needle, not in line with the edge of the foot. So I hope today's tutorial was helpful. Please do give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Join me on my Facebook sewing group, and please do sign up for my monthly newsletter on the website, and you can keep up to date with all my new patterns and tutorials. All the links are in the text below the video, just scroll down. So what are you waiting for? Go sew curves!